Today's Cosplay Con Talk episode is sponsored by Moco Queen Color Contacts. Don't forget to use my code Wayne for 10% off at checkout at mocoqueen.com. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. How's it going, everyone? Wayne the Unknown here, and welcome back to another episode of Cosplay Con Talk, where we basically just discuss everything pertaining to the cosplay community and conventions. I'm joined here by Oregon-based cosplayer Caz Tastrophe Cos. How are we doing tonight,
Hello.
Kaz?
I'm great.
So real quick, I want to thank you again for coming on to talk about what it's been like not only cosplaying, but sharing your cosplay experience and what it's been like going to conventions.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready.
So to begin, how long have you been cosplaying for, and what got you into cosplay?
So for starters, I've been a cosplayer for 15 years. um, so it's been a really long time. I like to kind of separate my cosplay start into two categories because I've been cosplaying for 15 years, but I only started making cosplays like a decade ago. So there's like a little bit of gap from when I started making versus when I just hopped into the convention scene. But my first con was back in 2008. That was actually Kumo, Komori Con in Portland, and that's when it was still at the DoubleTree right next to Lloyd Center. So it was still really small. And the only reason that I found out about cons was that a couple of friends of mine back in like middle school, they went to a con, they went to Sakura Con, and they showed me pictures and like, whoa, that's really cool. And then I like Googled it, did some research, and found out that there was a con in Portland. So I was like, oh, let's go to that. So my little 13, 14-year-old self went to Kumo back in 2008.
Oh man. Yeah, so you're in the category, as I call it, cosplay veterans. You also started cosplaying, going to conventions when it's like it was becoming more mainstream here in the States. Like,
Yeah, like the I to put into perspective the time frame around that, I didn't even know that like people made costumes. Like I didn't know that cosplay making was a hobby until I went to that con finally, and like I bought a costume off of like one of the two websites you could buy costumes off of at the time. It cost like four times as much as it would to buy one today, and my mom thankfully funded this weird escapade. In fact, that was so long ago that as minors, or at least Kumoricon specifically, you couldn't attend Kumoricon under the age of 17 without a parent. So my mom had to join my friend and I, which was super awkward, and she like hated every minute of it, wanted to
so
leave.
basically you had to wait 3 to 4 years before you can like go by yourself.
Yeah, no, like they changed
That
that.
makes sense because technically back then 17 was sort of considered an adult. 17, 18.
Yeah, like you basically did have to be 18 years old to go to a con by yourself. They didn't have the whole like minor curfew thing, or like I think they changed it now, so if you're 13 and under you have to have a parent, but if you're between like 14 and 17 or 14 and 18 you can go by yourself. You just can't stay past the
Oh yeah,
curfew.
no.
Yeah. So I predate that, which is kind of wild.
So, what was your first cosplay um, for Kumo back in 15 years ago, basically?
Yeah, so I did Gara from Naruto.
As
Um,
most people would at the time, during
yeah,
the time.
Naruto was like one of the animes back
Yeah,
then. So
Shippuden was just out too around that time.
yeah, like I remember because I watched the series come out on TV, and I remember watching the finale of the original, and then I got into Shippuden and I immediately hated it and I
Yeah,
stopped
as
watching.
most people would.
Yeah, so I stopped watching fairly early on in Shippuden, but like maybe even a couple years ago my husband was watching through it and he gave me all the updates, and then eventually he got to a point where he couldn't finish. He was like, "Yeah, you made the right choice." So, but yeah, I bought a Gara cosplay back then, and I went to Party City and bought a wig, and I butchered the crap out of it.
I
And it
mean,
looked
his hair is
awful.
like red, spiky,
Yeah. Oh, it was
bluish.
awful. It was so bad. If you do need pictures, I could also
Oh,
send some.
if you have a cringe-worthy
Yeah.
picture of, did you even have his like his big sand
Well,
thing?
and that's the thing is that I wanted to do like OG Gara from like the tuning exams, but that
Oh,
costume was way more expensive than like his Hokage, like because what I did was the black uniform with the the sandy vest, and then I didn't have a gourd going in, but I remember buying one at Kumo that weekend in a backpack form, and like I don't have it anymore, unfortunately, but I kept it for the longest
oh,
time.
oh, 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 oh. That version, right?
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to do. But my mom was like, no, you can't do that one. You have to buy the cheaper one. Because I want to say that version of Gara was maybe like $200, and the version that I got was only like 100. And she's like, I'm not buying you a $200 costume, which is
Oh,
fair.
oh no, it
She
is.
didn't know whether or not I would stick to it. I actually sold that costume 2 years ago because I kept it for so
And
long.
it's like this is your first, you got to keep it. It's like your baby.
I was a little attached to it, but like for no good reason. So I
So
finally
it's like this
sold it.
this is your child is old enough to just give to
Yeah,
someone else.
yeah. So it's in
Oh.
someone else's hands now, but it was pretty funny.
So I've asked this like, from a few cosplayers who went to Kumo and all the and those Pacific Northwest cons back in the day. What was Kumo like for you back in 2008?
It was very, very different than you would expect now. And I've seen KumoriCon change venues. The convention center is the third one that I've been to. So like the atmosphere is very different. I also didn't know how to do conventions back then. I didn't know that panels were a thing. I never bothered to check the convention schedule. And so basically I showed up, I stumbled upon a Naruto photo shoot happening in the park just because we happened to be outside. And I went into the dealer hall, which was essentially like if you imagine like a flea market tent, that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what Kumoricon's vendor hall used to be. So it was really, really different. And like I don't remember even staying very long because I was with my mom and she didn't want to be out very long, so she kind of complained long
Like,
enough, and I'm like, okay, I guess we can leave.
are we done yet?
Yeah, she was a trooper though, because we did one day, and then my friend and I we did Gara and Tamari.
Wait, who?
And Tamari, so like the Sand sibling. So there was
Oh,
Gara and then his sister Tamari,
oh,
and then
I didn't know they were siblings.
yeah, the one with the fan, the folding fan.
Okay, yeah.
So she did that, and then my mom was like, "Well, now I feel underdressed." So my friend and I whipped up a Konkuro costume for her out of like her clothes.
Oh.
And I like put some like bat ears on her hood. Like it was really, really,
Oh, okay.
really lame. But
I know who
yeah,
Conqueror is now.
so
He's
my mom joined us for that day because she felt underdressed,
okay, yeah, I know who Conqueror is. Oh,
and then
wow.
immediately hated it and wanted to leave.
But I imagine years later when
But
you
you
were able to
know,
sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say she tried. She tried to get it. She took me to SoccerCon the following year too because I had so much fun at KomoriCon, which is again weird because I really shouldn't have by any means because I didn't do anything. But we went up to Seattle the following year to do SoccerCon, and then after that I was kind of hooked.
It's like, okay, I like this. I want to do more of it now.
Yeah, yeah, and like SoccerCon has always been my favorite con. Even since then. So there's always been a little bit of a soft spot for it. I try to go every year, even if it was like really almost impossible to go.
I mean, if you since you live up further up north, it's much easier compared to someone who lives like me who lives down here is like, oh, it's gonna take that long? Well, never mind.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I was even just in Southern Oregon because my husband's family lives down there, and we made that car ride in like 4 hours, and like it literally takes just as long to get to Seattle.
As it does to get to down here,
So,
yeah.
like doubling that, no way.
So you're also into Soccer Con in 2008. That's roughly around the same time. It was around 2008, 2009 when I heard of Soccer Con,
Yeah.
and I know it's much different. I know it's from what I heard back, 15, 14 years ago to what it's like now. It's like it's changed itself, especially with the venue and
Oh,
everything.
it's huge. Like the con's easily doubled since then in size. So they have an extra because they had just the Washington Convention Center and now um they have a whole additional building that's like a couple blocks away. So this last Soccer Con 2023 was like it was hard because it wasn't very walkable just because you had the distance between the buildings and like it was Seattle weather in April, so it kind of sucked. And the only day that we had that wasn't raining was Friday, and thank God because I had not one but two body paint costumes that
We'll
day.
we'll we'll, ta-
um,
we'll talk about those.
yeah,
Oh, geez. Yeah, I know. I felt bad for anyone who, especially if they were carrying, because I know the vendors hall was in one building and the other stuff was in the other building. So
yes,
people trying
yeah,
to
they
carry
did.
like their art and or makeup while walking in that rain, like I know it's like a few minutes apart, but
Yeah,
like
yeah, I wasn't super stoked with this setup. I feel like they should have at least tried to keep them in the same buildings
we're
and
not
maybe
bashing
did
the
a different.
con. It's just
Yeah, I'm
everyone
not
is
bashing the con. I'm just questioning their choices.
it
I
happens.
love soccer con. I always have. But yeah, like a lot of people, especially artists, were very upset with that. Um but it wasn't as bad as some people think. It was just more of an
You mean
annoyance
you got,
than
especially
anything else.
if you don't live in either Oregon or Washington, you got to remember that in when the further up north you go, well, the more west and up north you go, there's a higher chance it's gonna rain.
Yep. And a lot of people travel to SoccerCon. So
Oh,
they're
it's a good
coming from,
con.
yeah, they're coming from places all over. So it's a lot of locals, but it's also a lot of out of towners. So
What
like
the?
even this last year, my friend from Ohio came out. So like it's just one that a lot of people want to go to. And I don't blame them. It is really fun.
It's been on my list for a few years now. I know, like they just like I think what they just as soon as it was over this year, they just already announced the dates for next year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yeah, so we've in fact, most cons do that, unless they're like really small and they aren't too sure. But
Hmm.
any of the big venue cons, they pretty much already know what their dates are going to be. The
Like, hey,
like last day of the previous con.
I think what was I'm not sure if someone said I'm not sure if it was for this con or a different con, but someone was saying literally like not even on like not it wasn't even day three yet. I think that someone said it was like day two and they just announced the dates for next year. I wasn't sure if it was for Soccer Con or a different con.
I can't recall that for Sakura Con, but I also usually don't even have that on my radar until after the con's over, so I wouldn't be a good person to ask. I wouldn't be surprised,
Mhm.
but I can't say for sure.
So what were the two body paint cosplays you did for Soccer Con on Friday when it wasn't raining?
So because my friend came out, we are both into this very specific D&D podcast that hardly anybody listens to, and it's a shame because it's really good. So because we were cosplaying together for the first time, I'm like, what if we did? And it's called The Unexpectables. If you like D&D podcasts, you should listen to it because it's good. But I think their audience is only like 12,000 strong,
Unex
which in the grand
unexpected
scheme of things is really small.
Unexpectables. I'm just gonna put Unexpectables cosplay, and I think when I send you you'll know.
Yeah. So I could say the character names, but nobody would know who they are. But basically, I was a purple satyr for the morning, and then I turned into a changeling, who's like gray complexed. So I had the morning to be purple, and then immediately when we were done with our photo shoot, I went back. We took a breather, and then I changed into my gray body paint makeup.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Two body
Which
paints
I
in
used to
one
body
day.
paint a lot, like a lot, a lot. Yeah, two in one day. That's pretty normal for me. Not both body paint, but I used to body paint a lot. Like when I was in my Dragon Ball phase, I picked all of the weirdly colored characters, so I would
As
spend
you
entire
do.
con weekends in body paint. I would never do that again because that's insane, but I used to.
So now into some con questions. I usually ask this in two parts. It pertains to both cosplayers and non-cosplayers. So I'll start with a non-cosplayer one first. Advice for those who want to go to a con for the first time and who don't cosplay, basically attendees who go to a con to not cosplay. Advice you like to give.
I say like do a little bit of a mental check before you pick what you want your first con to be. Going to small cons is really great and it's a nice like stepping stone. I have really bad social anxiety, or at least I did when I was younger. It's gotten better, but I've had straight up panic attacks at cons that I went to because something happened and I was just overwhelmed. And bring somebody, bring somebody who you think would enjoy it, because like I said, I had my mom at my first couple of cons and she hated it, so that kind of like in hindsight dampened the experience, but it was new to me, so it was still fun. If that was to happen now, I would be absolutely furious. But yeah, like go find somebody who you think would enjoy a con. Find a con that you would both enjoy, because you've got like comic conventions, which I don't enjoy as much as anime conventions, but that's my personal preference. Other people or vice versa, they like the comic cons more. Um, just kind of depends. And yeah, like start small if you can, or if you want to go big, then go big. It kind of depends on what you want to do there. Like if you're there for the guests and the programming, then go to a bigger con, because you're gonna have
Nice.
more of that. If you want to like check the vibe and like maybe have something that doesn't feel so intense, then try to find a smaller one. I've had good experiences at both, but I've also like had to go into these different cons with different mindsets to have a good experience. So like don't go to a small con expecting it's going to be busy like a bigger con, because you'll spend a lot of time just sitting around.
That's fair, and I also agree about bringing a buddy with you, as I call a convention exit buddy, if
Yes.
especially even if like you've gone to small cons your whole life and you decide, I'm done with Disneyland. I want to go to Disney World, as I put it. Like you want to try those big cons because you're like, I
Mhm.
just and it's definitely like a whole different world in a sense when you go to a big
Yeah.
con
Well, and
compared
they
to
look
small cons.
so fun through like, you see people's stories about certain cons, you see like other people's like vlogs about different cons, but you can go and not have anywhere near the same experience. So like don't expect that
Oh,
going into an event, because it's not realistic.
I mean, I know what I was expecting when I went to Con this year. Like, I know this is not your average anime convention.
Hmm.
And now advice for cosplayers who are wanting to go to their first con or just in general.
So for cosplayers, like, are you talking like people who've never cosplayed before going to a con,
Yeah,
or like,
yeah, people who wanted to get into
okay,
cosplay and go to a convention because I know some people like will cosplay at home,
okay.
so to speak, but when they actually go to a convention, I
Yeah.
know it's different.
Yeah, like when COVID first started, a lot of people took up cosplaying and had like entered the con scene like post COVID. What I can say is that if you do a cosplay at home, it's going to be very, very different to expect to be in that costume for hours on end. So, and I don't follow my own advice, but plan accordingly.
It's
I'm
usually
the
how it
worst,
goes.
but yeah, no, no, no. But like, do as I say, not as I do. Uh, plan accordingly. Plan for the weather. Eat food.
Convo's
And
expensive. Go somewhere
it,
else.
bring food if you must. I literally will pack a cooler into my car for cons that I drive to, and neglect to eat the food that I brought. But at least it was there.
Like, why is this sandwich all moldy? Oh, it's right. I was supposed to eat that.
Yeah. And like do tests and bring a pair of extra shoes, Bring comfy shoes, even if you are in full cosplay, like, and Crocs, like, who cares? Your feet will thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, like don't expect to be comfortable in that costume all day unless it is more like street clothes. Bring a backup, like if you have certain like issues with like wearing wigs or anything, like bring like ibuprofen or something. Like I usually have a little go bag of emergency supplies where it's like I bring my own sewing kit just in case because I don't always have time or energy to make it to the cosplay repairs. I used to get migraines really badly because like it's not from wigs, it's from glasses because I don't wear contacts. So I go without my glasses all day and then like depending on the day, like it just hits me really hard. So like I have to have my pain meds or else. Um but yeah, like don't, it's not the same as just going out to a con. Like there's a whole other layer of things that you're not going to be prepared for until you experience them. But if you can try to bring things to like alleviate yourself throughout the day, then like that's going to be way better in the long run.
I just want to know how the hell do you all like it's the last day of the con and it's like, I'm gonna do this over the top cosplays. Like, how? Why?
So 2 years ago at SoccerCon, my friends and I did the Sweet Generals from One Piece at SoccerCon on Sunday. And granted, the day was my fault because I was doing katakuri and they decided to join me. Like, I did not invite. They were like, hey, what if we joined you as this? I'm like, all right, cool. But I had different plans for the rest of the weekend, so the only day I could do it was on Sunday. And by the Sunday of con, like we were in our hardest costumes of the entire weekend and just barely dragging our feet around this convention. Like, we were so tired and in so much pain. It was still fun, but like that was a big mistake.
Lesson learned, but
Yeah, that's fine.
they say they always say, "Oh, I'm gonna learn my lesson." It's like years later,
Listen, you never do because again, this was 2 years ago, and how long have I been cosplaying for?
15 years, and you still haven't learned
So,
a thing.
nope. Well, I've learned. I just actively choose to ignore it.
It's like, don't do what I do because you'll regret it.
Yep, yep, pretty much.
Oh man. So all together, what's been like going to conventions for 15 years?
It's weird seeing them change, but they do very
Oh.
much change, and like some change for the better, some change for the worse.
Mm.
So it's like you can't really get your heart set on one con because there might be one year that is just like not as good as others. Like I love KomoriCon. I love KomoriCon a lot, but they kind of suffered post COVID.
Oh no,
Um,
a lot of conventions
Most
have.
cons did suffer post COVID, but like it really hit KomoriCon
Not
hard.
Dragon Con.
Yeah, God, I'd love to go to Dragon Con. That looks so fun. Um, but yeah, like the atmospheres of stuff, like
Hmm.
Rose City was the one that really got me because Rose City was huge, and now like attendance wise, it's almost on par with Kumori, which is weird. But I think like this last year, the only reason that they had a huge spike in attendance
Critical
because
Role.
they got all of the Critical Role
Well,
cast
I heard stories how
on
like the
board.
panels were packed, the line for
Yeah, they had to
autographs
kick
were
people
packed.
out. I wanted to go to the Critical Role panel, but you had to sign up and get on a wait list. And they released the wait list at like 7 o'clock on a Friday. And
Mm.
I happened to be driving home at that moment. So when I got home to sign up for the wait list, I
It's like
was
it was like
waitlisted, or for to sign up for the panel, I was waitlisted immediately. So like it filled up in less than an hour.
I mean, you got Critical Role, Matt Mercer, Lord
Yeah,
Bailey, Ashley Joe
yeah,
Johnson,
no,
like
like it was
all
insane.
of them, not only do they do
Yeah,
Critical, but they do Vox
but I
Machina.
feel like that's the only thing that got them as much
Oh
attendance because the
no.
year prior it was very, very dead, and a lot of people only show up for the celebrity guests and then they leave. Like
Oh
I,
no. That
yeah,
you're not wrong because yeah, no.
yeah. Well, they go really hard on the celebrity guests because they have a huge guest list every year.
Oh,
They always have.
I
Yeah.
always look at their guest list.
Yeah,
It's
they
like
always have, but I think that's actually kind of turned into their downfall. because they put all of the funding into celebrities and not so much for any of the rest of the cons. So like if
Again,
you don't
no
go
no
for
hate,
that,
no hate,
yeah,
because
no,
this is
no, hey, I'm just being critical because again,
if
I've gone to
eh,
cons for so long, like I see what works and I see what doesn't, and like that seems to be the one thing that Rose City does that I don't see
and
at a
a
lot of
lot
other
of
cons, and it's kind of like reflected in
it's
attendance.
more focused on one thing, but then like,
Yeah.
and I know Rose City's held at the convention center, and they use the entire convention center. Same with Fan Expo. They use the same place, but there's a lot more going on.
Yeah, actually Fan Expo didn't last year. So, because I went, they had a really strange setup, but the like two main lobbies in that convention center, so you got like the Dragon Boat lobby and then like the
Mhm.
Pendulum lobby, that was the entirety of Fan Expo.
God, the freaking Dragon Boat lobby was more packed than the Pendulum lobby this year.
Yeah. But yeah, there was another convention going on in the middle of it, and they were using the ballroom area, which was weird because that was a good like way to cross the convention center without having to go outside, but that whole area was blocked off for a different event that was going on. So if you were at Fan Expo and you wanted to leave one lobby and they had like a system for you to file in so you could only enter on one side and you could only
Hmm.
exit on one side. So if you wanted to get back in, you had to go outside, walk all the way around. And Fan Expo is in the wintertime, so it is cold. And I was doing photography at that con, and I had to go
Ooh.
outside like 3 or 4 times in one day, and that was awful. So that was a weird experience. But yeah, I think that was just the convention center likes to double book when they can, and I feel like they should have used the back half of the convention center and not the center of the convention center. So that was a convention center mishap, not really a con mishap.
And I mean, it's always gonna be different because there's always gonna be some type of miscommunication between the convention and the place it's being held at.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like, especially if you are at cons during, their growth and you see them move from venue to venue, there's things about certain venues that worked really well, but they can't like sustain it. Honestly, KomoriCon, when it was still in Vancouver, that was my favorite time to go to KomoriCon.
I've heard
Yeah, it
uh
was so fun,
in
but
the
it
early
just got too
days.
big.
No,
Yeah,
because the bigger the con, like you're gonna
mhm.
need a much. I mean, I saw the attendance for this year during the closing ceremonies, and Kuma had like over 10,000
Yeah, it
attendance.
was really big this year. But yeah, like it was
You
really
got
fun when
Caleb
it was
Hiles and
just a
Jonathan
hotel
Bloom.
con, but they couldn't sustain it anymore, so they had to move. But I'll reflect on those days fondly at the very least.
I mean, but I know Kimura Con is a con you'll go to no matter what, because
Pretty much, yeah.
it's pretty much your home. It's pretty much your, in a way, your comfort con. Like you go no
Yeah,
matter
no, like
what.
it is my home base. Like I'll always go to Kumo, unless something else takes me away from it. But
Well, it's 5:20, so we need to keep on moving along. Do you plan on going to any cons the remainder of December or early January?
Fan Expo's rolling up again in January, which I am going again mostly because I do photography and that's just an
Oh,
easy
that's right.
con
You
to
got
kind of
Caz
do that at.
Tastrophe photography or something.
Yeah, I'm like it's a lazy name and I'll think of something else better eventually.
It's his unique name. No
I'm like
judgment.
at least you can relate it to me. Um, but yeah, like I started doing photography this year and I kind of do that to help pay for all of my cosplaying stuff because I spend too much money on cosplay, so
Cosplay's
I need to make up for it somehow.
nowadays. If you go on like your standard cosplay site, you can get like a full cosplay for like under $200.
Oh, it's very affordable
It's
now.
not great quality. I've learned the hard
No,
way.
but see, if you make costumes like I do, you can sink a lot of money into one project
Oh yeah, no.
accidentally,
I mean,
even.
wh
So it's not hard to do.
which brings us on to the next topic about the cosplay portion. So it's a question I always ask. What kind of advice would you want to give to a cosplayer on a budget or someone who's want to get it, well, who's wanting to get into cosplay because they see it, they like it, and they want to give it a shot?
Honestly, it depends on what will end up sticking with you as a cosplayer because we all do it for different reasons. Some people really enjoy just dressing up, but they don't have the time, energy, or know how to make costumes. And if that's the case, just buy one. Like it's fine.
I go on
It's
Amazon and
really
just buy mine bit by
accessible.
bit.
Yeah.
What I do.
And Yeah, and you can learn over time if you want to get like I did. I started buying because I didn't know that people could craft cosplays, but I didn't own a sewing machine until I was graduated from high school. So that's why it was a 5 year gap from me starting cosplay and me making cosplay was just an accessibility thing.
You were learning a new
So
skill, basically.
yeah, but costumes weren't as accessible when I was first starting. So if I wanted to buy some, I really couldn't.
Had to go on the website
Um,
and hopefully you knew
so
Japanese.
yeah. So when I first started, I did a lot of thrifting, and thrifting is a great thing to do. I still do it to this day. Especially when I've made a button-up shirt for the billionth time and I really can't be bothered to make another one, so I will find one. um, like simple stuff like that. Start small, start big if you want to. Just know if you go big, it's going to be expensive.
I mean,
But if you do want to go big, like who's to stop you? I've seen incredible cosplays come from people who have never made a costume before. But do research, because guess what? All of that information is readily available now, and it never was back like when I first started.
mm-mm.
So use the resources. Cosplayers write books. You've got so many things that are available to you. Just I can say if you do want to start making costumes, don't ask cosplayers specifically for very like easily Googleable advice because we don't have a lot of time. And I do get this sometimes. Please just use the internet, be self sufficient. You can find the information unless there's something really specific that another cosplayer did that you're like, wow, how did you do that? I've never seen that before. Um, but also like don't be like off put if they don't want to share that information because maybe that's something special that they did that they don't necessarily want other people copying. Because cosplay is an art form. I experience this a lot because I change a lot of the designs from like canon to do something my own. Mostly just for my own entertainment because I have a very high level of sewing skills. I'm a tailor, like this is my place that I work. So um I have to do a lot more to entertain myself. Um, so like if you want to yeah, like if you do want to start cosplaying and start somewhere, like the information's there. You can
Mm-hmm.
find it. If you need extra help, you can ask a cosplayer if you want to, but like please try to do all the research on your own.
Oh yeah, no.
And then we are like a last resort.
Also, there are cosplayers, I believe, such as yourself, do commissions for cosplay.
I do. I've actually done quite a few commissions this year. So they are harder to find, even knowing as many craftspeople as I do. I'm one of the only ones in this area that I know for sure does full costume commissions. I'm trying to shy away from it though because it does take a lot out of me and it
Well, I
takes up a lot of my
mean,
time.
not to
Um,
mention, not everyone will like there are those chances people are going to opt out of the commission too.
Yeah, so you do have to build in some sort of fail safe. I've had people bail on me. I've had people bail on me even after sending me money and then they want money back. And it's like, well, because of how this goes and because of my contract, if you send me anything, only up to a certain point can you bail and get refunds.
Mm-hmm.
But if I've put time and effort into your commission already, then I still have to be compensated. So
Oh yeah,
there's a
no,
whole,
because you just
yeah,
put in
so
the
there's a
you
whole
just put in
grading
the hours.
scale.
You just put in the hours, and not to
Yeah.
mention having to spend some of your own money for materials.
Yeah, so like I try to charge as much for certain materials just to make sure we get everything covered. But there is occasions where I do bulk orders for fabric. So whenever I buy anything for commissions, I usually wait until I get all of my commissions, at least their first payment in. And then I have to do my bulk orders, and I've had people bail on me after I've done said bulk order. So it's like I've already bought fabric for you. So like I can't just give you that money back because I wouldn't have had this fabric on hand otherwise, and I don't know what to do with it.
Oh yeah, no, I
So
I wholeheartedly agree. And that actually
yeah.
brings me to a new question: advice for cosplayers who want to get into making commissions for other people.
Ooh, this one's really hard. I was not comfortable with doing commissions until after my schooling. So I have a bachelor's degree in apparel design. I did sewing classes, I did pattern making classes. I learned straight from the source how to make costumes and how to make clothes. And even I was timid about opening for commissions. Um, there are certain skills that you will need to have and be really sufficient in before you can comfortably do commissions. And I would say don't even think about cosplay, like costume commissions, unless you are a good pattern maker. And that's the hardest thing in sewing. I to this day still hate it. I've gotten really good at patterning for myself, and I've gotten pretty good at fitting people from across the country. 99% of my commissions I do not know in person, and I will never see them in person probably ever in my life. And it scares me to death every time I send out a finished commission because I'm like, I measured this at least 40 times. It should be good, but I still am nervous. Um, but like you do need to really know what you're doing. Starting smaller, doing like wigs and stuff, if you're pretty good at wigs. I know a lot more people that do wig commissions than do costumes or anything sewn. Even props, I see a lot more prop commissioners than sewing commissioners. um it just kind of depends on what your skill set is, and like price yourself accordingly. If you do have a lot of skills that not a lot of people have, don't feel like you need to undersell yourself. I still did even this last year, and I'm opening again in the new year, but I am almost doubling my working price because I was severely underselling myself and I didn't realize it until after this year, where some of the invoices that I sent out for people, I'm like, this is the quote and this is a lot, but like you're getting my level of work, and they had no issue agreeing to it. Where in the past I was charging even less, and I had a lot of people back out because they're like, oh, that's too much. But I think the overall tone has shifted a lot, so people actually do appreciate having a handmade, one of a kind piece for themselves. Um, so I'm like, hey, like this was really frustrating to do this last year. For like I did make a decent amount of money, but not nearly as much as I should have. So I'm like, if I need to do this again, like I at least need to be making more than I make at my day job, and I was not.
Oh
So
no, completely
that
understandable.
was that was a mistake.
No,
Yeah.
that's completely understandable. So
Yeah.
thinking, what else? You answered that. You answered that.
To excuse the potential crashing that might be
Oh no, you're
happening.
fine. So now onto cosplays. Since you basically make your cosplays, what's been like the one cosplay project that took you the longest to make?
Bash.
Oh, the one I saw at Kumo this year
Definitely Bash.
with a leather coat.
Yeah. Yep. Ironically, I still somehow made that in only a month. But when it comes to working time, I was working on Bash day and night for that entire month. Like I con crunched the heck out of that
Ooh,
costume.
oh, that's right. You were telling
Um,
me that he was a con crunch.
he was a con crunch, and like it was a whole month of con crunching because I knew that there was no way I could make something to that scale in less time. And ironically, even as long as he took me, I really only average about a month per costume, sometimes even 2 weeks, depending on the costume and like if it's something I'm really used to. Vash was a whole new world. I had never worked with that much leather before. He is real leather.
Oh, I know. I
Um,
saw. I have the
yeah,
pictures.
yeah. The only thing that I didn't do was I did not have any part in making my gun prop. I bought a 3D printed one on Etsy and I sanded it and painted it, and that was it.
Hey,
Because I just did not have time.
sometimes you kind of have to like cheat in a sense, you know?
Yeah, well, and it's like play to your skills, and I cannot 3D model to save my life, and I didn't know anybody with a 3D printer at the time who could like help me. So I do know now that I have people with 3D printers, but I can't design my models. I have to buy them
Yeah,
because I literally failed 3D CAD in college. Like I have no skills.
jeez.
I tried, but no, I'm just not good at it.
I can't imagine what would be how long it would take if you because I know we talked about it at Komori-Con. How long would it take you to do Maester Seymour Guado's outfit from Final Fantasy X?
I want to remake that outfit so bad. Like I need a redemption on Seymour. That was the third costume I've ever made, and it was noticeable. It was
I
so bad.
mean,
Um, I think if I was to tackle him again, it would probably be similar to Vash, if not less so. For the costume, I would actually be able to get that done fairly quickly, I think. I even have my old pattern. Like, I don't ever throw anything away. So
so I'm gonna
I
for
still
those
have
who
my
don't
original pattern,
know,
so I still have something that fits. I just need to, like, remake it better.
what Seymour looks like, I'm gonna
Oh,
pull
yeah.
up.
The imagery is necessary because he's ridiculous.
I mean, you got the Guado hands, like
Yeah.
everything about Guado fashion and just Final Fantasy in general, especially 10,
Final Fantasy has the best and most ridiculous
especially
outfits.
the Guado. You have the long fingers, you got that crazy ass
The
hair,
hair,
which I
his
know.
staff is the most intimidating.
Oh yeah,
It's very intricate.
I mean, those are boots he's wearing. Okay, I always thought those were pants he was wearing. Those are long
Yeah.
ass boots. I feel like the wig
Yeah,
would
no,
have to be
he's
done in
got
like the wig would have to be done in three parts because you got the base one, you got the base wig here,
yeah,
and he
no,
got
you'd have to
his.
have like a rigging system to attach the big like ponytail things, but he's got one in the front and then he's got the two in the
I mean,
back.
not to mention that,
Trust me, I have thought this out so many times. I'm like, I just need to
and
do it, but I know that
then he
it's
got
gonna be
his,
expensive.
then he got his tattoos, and he has an intricate looking chest and that long necklace.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, it's just so
Yep,
much.
he's a lot.
I've only probably seen like
I think getting into that costume is going to be the harder part than
you're
just making it. Like, it's going to
nope.
be a whole ordeal anytime I want to wear it.
It's like, nope, all other cosplay projects are put aside. I'm specifically working on Seymour.
Yeah, no, one of these days I will. I'm just like, I know it's going to be a lot and expensive. So, like, eventually maybe, but probably not
Do you
anytime
have a
soon.
photo of Seymour anywhere, or is he just
I
like,
do have one single photo of Seymour and I will
okay,
send it to you because,
okay, I'm curious what it
yeah,
looks like as a
yeah, it's
because
so bad.
I
It's
was like
so
showing the photo of the person they're cosplaying and then the cosplay they done. It's not like to bash them or anything. It's just to show the comparison just in case people.
Yeah, no, no, no. Like it's literally so bad. I'm aware that it's so bad. And I was really ambitious when I was younger, apparently, and I made oh god, I made that in 2015, I think. So that was 8, 9 years ago now.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, he's definitely an intimidating cosplay. Like
Yeah,
any character from Final Fantasy,
most of them are.
depending
Yeah.
on who it is, especially Seymour Guado, Kimari Ronso, or anyone from any other Final
Oh,
Fantasy.
I would love to
Anyway,
see a Kamari cosplay.
oh
Like
no,
no one wants to tackle him, and I get it, but like,
oh no, you're fine. So now to the cosplays. Um, I'm talking your answer that. Well, yeah. So I want to ask you about one of your cosplays that you did. Speaking of the body paint, how long did it take to do Frieza's original form from Dragon Ball, the Namek Saga?
yeah. Full disclosure, I hate that costume now. Like a
It looks
lot.
really well done. I mean,
Um,
I saw the one
I
you did in like 2019
I thank
compared
you.
to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like he has been a fan favorite for a while, but he's just really exhausting for me to wear. What year did I make that costume? That was like 2018. Because like my Dragon Ball saga was basically like 20 maybe 16 to 2018. Like it lasted a really long time. And I would spend entire cons where I wore nothing but Dragon Ball costumes, and Frieza was a favorite. The costume itself didn't take me that long. It was just like getting into that costume is a process because he's got foam pieces on my legs and arms. So once those are on, I have very limited mobility. um, so I have to basically put everything on before those go on. The makeup takes forever. I still to this day cannot do a good job, and it's mostly the lines on
I mean,
his
you're. I mean,
face.
if I can show a
Like,
picture, if I can show a comparison picture,
yeah, yeah,
I
go for
mean,
it.
you're from your 2019 to your.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really impressive, but I can see why you didn't do like his second, his third, or his final form.
Yeah, funny story. I attempted to start with his final form, and what I was doing was just such a hot mess that I should have given up way, way before I did. But I went as far as making like a duct tape mannequin. So I had a duct tape mannequin of myself because I was gonna make some sort of weird like latex bodysuit, and it failed miserably. It looked god awful. I don't know why I thought that I could do it that way. If I was to do it now, I have a completely different approach in mind, but I don't think I would. I'm kind of done with Dragon Ball. Because again, I spent 2 years doing nothing but Dragon Ball, and it was like, I think I really exhausted
So
myself.
basically,
They were really fun, but
Frieza's that one cosplay that you did it once, but you would never do again.
I've worn Frieza quite a few times. Even recently, like that costume is like 6 years old, and I have worn him probably the most out of anything besides like Law. Law is kind of my staple now from One Piece, but I think Frieza has the second place for how many times I've worn it. Um, and he was always fun, but like there was a weird shift in like specifically my Frieza costume after COVID, and I'm not really sure what happened, but like I had nothing but good experiences in that costume, and then all of a sudden like I was just really uncomfortable, and like people started acting weird around me in that costume, and I had too many weird encounters, and I'm not really sure what caused it. It's just all of a sudden like people were getting a little bit too like handsy with Frieza. I had like people trying to touch my face. I had people um like telling me that I did a bad job on something. I'm like, well, yeah, I made it 6 years ago. Like I don't care.
Like I like to
But
say, you try to make this cosplay, you
yeah, I'm like, yeah,
nerd.
you do it the first time and then let me know. Like if I was to do it again now, it would be a bajillion times
I
better.
mean,
I just don't want to,
it
so
looks
I'm
really
not
well
gonna.
done, and I think I always find it weird who people who have never cosplayed, have never done this, like, oh, I could do better. It looks bad. It's like, okay, you
Yeah,
do it then.
try. Like try and show me.
When you're done,
Yeah.
when you're done after all the crying, the cussing,
Yeah. Uh,
the then come to me
the
and like
inevitable hurting yourself. Yeah, like
the
sleepless
hot glue
nights. Like I've
burns.
been through it all. Been multiple times. Like you can do better than prove it.
Oh, right. Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
Um, now the cosplays, I was curious about the Frieza. What's that one cosplay you've not done in so long that you would like to bring back?
Ooh, like all of them. I'm the worst. So like I make more costumes than I can like realistically wear in a year.
So you can like have your own cosplay museum at this point.
I I kind of do. Like it's really bad. Um, like one of my favorite costumes that I think that I've ever worn, not for like the craftsmanship, but just like how fun it was to wear, was Bartolomeo from One Piece.
Who?
And Bartolomeo,
I'm just gonna write Bartello.
yeah, I can send you more info later,
Yeah.
and pictures and whatnot, but I wore him for SakuraCon 2 years ago, and I had an absolute blast in that costume. I have not worn it since. Like not because I don't want to, but like I just keep finding new things to wear. I keep having different like the hyperfixations that I have fully dictate what goes on in my like convention going life. So I've done a lot of Trigun lately just because I got really hard into Trigun this year. So I like really went into it. I did a lot of One Piece last year, so I kind of was like pulling back on the One Piece stuff. I was actually really good this last year about like trying to represent all these different fandoms that I like. Um, but like the more things you're like, oh, now I'm like fixated on this, so I'm gonna wear this, then you keep like pushing back the other ones that you want to wear again. And I don't go to that many events per year, so like it was really easy for me to only wear one once and then never touch it again. I am bringing Bartolomeo back for this upcoming Sakura-con, but again, this is like a 3 year gap in me wearing this costume that I absolutely love. It just happens sometimes.
That's Bart. Okay, I just okay. Oh, I've seen you done. I've seen him on your Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
Them some
And like I painstakingly made that pant fabric from scratch. Like I cut all these little squares and quilted them together and lined up each little corner, and it took forever, and I've only worn it once. So it just happens sometimes.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, it looks really well done.
Thank you.
I can't find him.
I haven't posted him in a really long time. He's one of the few that never had a like legitimate photo shoot either, which
Yeah,
is
I'm
maybe
trying to look him
strange.
up on your Instagram, and yeah, he must be
Yeah, no, it's been
really
a
down there. He
while.
must be way down there.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you when the last time I posted him was. It was definitely last year.
Now, what's that one cosplay that I don't think I've ever asked this before. What's that one cosplay you'll never do again? Like it's basically as like I said, one and done. Like you've done it once, but it's just like you would never want to do it again because it just didn't really fit the vibe, or someone asked you to, and it's just like, okay, fine, I'll do it, but I'm never gonna do it again.
Um, that's kind of an odd question for me because I do this a lot. But anytime that I buy a costume, it's a one and done, which is really odd. But because I'm a crafts person, I don't like wearing costumes that I didn't make to cons. So I really only like buy stuff on impulses or buy stuff for like groups, so that we all match. But then like I never want to touch it ever again. So I'm like, once we did the thing, I'm like, okay, now we can sell it and move on. I never make one and done costumes, even if it's one that I made and then I don't touch for 3 years. Like I will put it on again. But yeah, and that's just a weird thing with me. I don't have nearly as much fun in costumes that I didn't make for cons. Mostly because I'm kind of an attention whore. I like the compliments. And I like being able to say that, yeah, I made this. So if I don't get to have that brag, then it's not as fun for me. Um, but yeah, that's just a me thing. Like
That
most people I know
that's
don't have that issue.
you know what, that's fair. I really can't, argue with that. Now, what is your, as I call it, what is your favorite comfort cosplay? Like, no matter how many cons you go to, or just in general, you enjoy wearing it.
And
And
I literally
it can't,
answered,
I was gonna
what's
say,
that?
it can't be law.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say I literally answered this the other day and it's law. But if I was to have a second, it's Vash. I very much enjoyed Vash. I physically cannot do Vash very much just because like the boots that I have for him are incredibly
I
painful.
saw those boots and like, what
They're
are
big and they're
those?
like I can do platforms. I can do platforms just fine. I have to severely like wrap my feet so that I don't get blisters
Ooh.
and like pad them out with socks. Um, so it's a whole ordeal just on the feet, but they're specifically heeled platforms, so you
I
have the
rem
weight of the shoe on top of your body weight sinking into your toes. That combination is killer.
I saw like you look like you were just dead
Yeah,
inside.
yeah, you you kind of just suck it up. Um, I could do Bash for longer if I switched to my flat platforms. I can't really wear my jacket without the platforms though because I'm very short and I made the jacket with the platform boots in mind. So if I don't have the extra heels, then that thing is dragging on the
It's just
floor.
basically you're wearing a long, like basically like
So
wearing a dress at that point, in a sense.
it's like wearing a gown. Yeah, it's basically a gown, and I step on it when I walk if I don't have the platforms. So
I think, yeah, you're
yeah,
the
I might
only.
experiment and try to use some of my shorter platforms. What's that?
Oh, sorry. No, continue. I was just thinking of something. I was thinking of a next question.
Oh, no. Okay. No, like I could probably do him for longer with my flat platforms because those are not nearly as painful. Like I can wear those all day, no problem. Um, again with the severe feet padding. But I learned that trick at SoccerCon because I had literally platform boots in every costume all 3 days. So I'm like, I need to do something. And that worked. I was not in that much pain at all. It was just the one type that have the heel in them that were just the little bit too much. Um, but I really like pushed it at Rose City because I wore Bash twice because I did him on Friday and I had so much fun that I did it again and I had blisters so bad the next day that
Oh,
like I straight up
oh.
like could barely walk.
Come on, you
It
know the
was
rule. You got to
yeah,
break
it was
them in
bad.
before the con.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, remember the do as I say, not
Say,
as
not as
I
I
do.
do. But it is,
So
it is good to sound advice, whether you're, man or woman, and you're wanting to wear heels, always break them in. Because if you
breaking your
don't,
shoes.
because
Stretch them out if you must.
if you
Like
don't, you're gonna like your feet are gonna sore, and next thing you know, your feet are bloody
and
and blistered to shit.
yeah, and this is also why I say that you gotta bring backup shoes because, like, there's almost a point in your shoe wearing where you're like, if I am in these any longer, I'm gonna lose it and I'm gonna be sore. So if you know what that signal feels like, then you can switch and save yourself the hassle. Which
Well,
I did at KomoriCon. I'm proud of myself.
that's good.
Yeah, so I kind of had that like instinctive, like, oh, I need to get out of these like right now. And it happened about 3 o'clock at KomoriCon and Bash. And I was there really early because I
Oh
had a
yeah,
shoot.
you were wearing him all day
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah, I had a shoot at like 9, I want to say. It was really early. So I was in that costume for a pretty long time. But I'm like, listen, I always schedule my shoots early in the morning so that if I feel like I'm gonna die later, it's fine. Like I don't have any obligations.
So I gotta ask, how long did it take to get those boots on?
Not long, not really at all. The boots are the easy part.
It was the jacket.
Yeah, like putting the whole jacket on because my jacket opens in 3 different spots. So there's like a center zipper, and then the top like overlaying flap has another zipper, and then the bottom one has another zipper. And then before all that, I have to put on my arm, which connects with clips that goes around my neck.
Hmm.
So that has to go on before the jacket can go on. Otherwise, I can't clip my arm
Basically a shoulder
in.
holster to the arm.
Basic, yeah, yeah, it's like a half of a like pauldron um that keep my arm on and yeah, like it's you have to do everything in a precise order or else it doesn't all go on. The gun holster has to go on before the jacket goes on. My knee pads and like anything that I have to bend down for have to go on before the boots go on. So it's just a whole ordeal.
Oh no, I mean, I think so far you're like the only OG Vash I saw because everyone else was, and this is no hate or anything because they were really well done. Everyone was
Yeah.
going as
Well,
Vash from
and
the
like
reboot.
yeah, well, and Stampede's on everyone's mind just because it's fresh. I do know that there was one other bash there, actually two other bashes. One is a friend of mine, and the other one I didn't end up seeing, but I heard about it in passing because there was another leather-clad bash
Oh, I think
at
I actually
Kumo
saw.
that I totally missed.
I think I saw that one.
Yeah, yeah, I totally missed it, but I'm like, hell yeah, somebody else wanted to torture themselves like I did. I love it.
Jeez, how much did that? How much did the jacket weigh? Because that looked like it weighed quite a bit.
It's heavy. Yeah, so I guess to put in perspective, I bought a total of 10 leather hides to make that jacket out of.
Red, or do you have to dye it?
I did buy it in that color,
Okay,
so
good.
thankfully, yeah, thankfully my supplier had just enough. Like I just barely had enough
Okay,
leather for this project, and
I
I
need
was
all
like
this red
low
leather
key
to make a
panicking.
jacket.
Yeah, yeah, no, I would not want to dye all that.
Hmm.
Like I don't mind dyeing fabric, but like that's a little much.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, he took 10 leather hides and it's all like lined and everything too. So there's just a lot going on in that jacket. All the hardware, it's, it's so much. Um, but yeah, I haven't weighed it. I'm curious, but I would not be surprised if it's like between 5 and 10
You,
pounds.
oh,
Like,
oh
yeah,
man.
like most of my props are lighter than that jacket.
By the way, what speaking of, what's your favorite prop from a cosplay?
Okay, so I make the weirdest props, but my favorite one is the one that I made for Karim from Fire Force. It's like a trumpet trombone thing, and it's taller than I am.
I'm just gonna put in Fire
Uh,
Force prop.
yeah. Yeah, the character is Karim. That was a really fun cosplay to make, but yeah, that was like the weirdest thing that
Wait,
I've ever
Karin
made.
or Karim?
Karim.
Okay, Karim. Okay. All right. I just oh, excuse me. Um, so do you got any cosplays you're currently working like a cosplay you're currently working on right now, and what are your future cosplays and what is your one dream cosplay?
Oh, okay. I'm not working on anything at the moment. I was kind of taking most of December off. Actually, that's a lie. I'm working on a Christmas bash. But that's
Christmas
like a really easy, yeah, that's just
Christmas
like a,
Bash? Ooh,
yeah, just like a funsies little thing that I do. I
Christmas
send out
Bash.
cosplay like holiday cards every year,
Ooh,
so
very
I
nice.
have to do this like one little photo shoot. I do most of my sewing at work, so I'm like, it's not really that big of a deal. Um, but I have a lot of stuff I'm starting right after the holiday season is over. I'm making Thorfinn from Vinland Saga first and foremost.
Thorfinn?
Yeah, and that's for a snow shoot that my
Okay.
friend is hosting in
All
January.
right. I just typed in Thorfinn. I'm not sure if I spelled it right.
Yeah, it's like Thor, like the god, and then
Uh,
Finn.
oh, okay, two N's. All right, Thorfinn.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. And who is he from?
Vinland Saga.
Continue. I'm looking them up.
Yeah, and it's specifically the child version where he looks like a feral wet cat. But my friend and I are like really into Vinland Saga. I did a Vinland Saga cosplay for a Ren fair.
Oh,
But yeah, yeah. So that's project, my next project, immediate project.
nice.
Um, and then at some point next year, I'm gonna tackle two like relatively big builds. One of them is going to be Mephisto from Blue Exorcist. And that one I want to
Ooh.
do like actually compete with. I have a lot of ideas for him. All of his supplies have been ordered, so I literally just need to like do it. And then I want to do Legato from Trigun. So that's my next big build. Well, not next, but that's gonna happen next year eventually. Specifically the like manga version where he's got like the crazy like Iron Maiden looking like thing. Like I want to make that.
Okay, I know you're talking. I know, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So again with the weird props, like, am
Now,
I ever just gonna make a sword? No, but I am gonna have a weird trumpet. I made a chainsaw one year, like, um, yeah. I
nice.
props are more fun when they're like out there.
Now, what is your dream cosplay? It's a cosplay that you've always wanted to do, but never had the time, the skill, the money, so forth and so on.
Like all of them. This is kind of a weird one, but do you know Final Fantasy 12 very well?
Yes, I'm from.
Okay,
Wait,
so specifically the Gilgamesh from Final Fantasy 12,
the judge?
where he's got like where he's got the six arms
Oh wait,
and he's massive.
I think I know who you're talking about. Give me a
And he's
minute.
got different swords from like each of the like main title games, or at least some of the most like popular swords from the main title games. This is an absolutely ridiculous like endeavor and like feat of puppetry. Even like I don't even know how. Yeah, I don't even know how I would start or
Holy
finish or wear that costume, but I
shit!
want to make it
Well,
eventually.
here's a better like it's an animated version, but
Yeah, yeah, that's like I think that's the Dissidia version.
yeah, it is. But that's a beast.
Yep.
Yeah,
There's a reason why I've never done it
here's
yet.
like you're
Yep.
gonna need a team just for the props, not to mention you're gonna need
Yep.
like
I know.
three, four cosplay handlers with you.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but like if I could ever make it
Oh, that'd
happen,
be a
I
pretty
want
cool
to.
competition piece.
That's like some really, really high level competition costume. But again, like that's just money alone. I'm like, that's probably like I don't know, 3 months rent at
Probably.
least.
So, so before I get into the remainder questions, what's it been like competing?
Ironically, I've never competed.
Oh,
So yeah, I talk about it all the time. I just never have.
for some reason I thought you
And
have competed.
yeah, well, and I get that a lot just because people see the stuff that I make and they're like, you absolutely entered a competition with that. I'm like, no. Why? I don't know. Like, a lot of the time it's either I just feel like it wasn't entry level or like high enough level for a competition, or like I'm a lot harder on myself with it, and also a lot of cons have changed their competition rules so that if you
Mm.
have a lot of experience as a craftsperson, or if your job is sewing in any way,
Basically, you would have to
or
enter in like journeyman or
you have
craftsman.
to enter masters. So as of right now, as someone who has never competed, I have to enter a masters category, and
Ooh.
that's a little intimidating.
I mean, yeah,
I am gonna compete this year, like, or this next year. That's a big goal of
nice.
mine.
For FanX.
I'm debating on that. I don't know for sure. I might, just because I don't really have anything else going for that con. Like the whole reason I was going in the first place, that guest canceled. So, but I've already had some photo shoot bookings, so now I'm like, I guess I have to go. But yeah, it's I might just experiment because again, like I can pull any of the costumes I've made. I might even enter Bash. Like I don't have a plan. It's just more of a practice getting on stage and being used to that. I used to be a theater kid. Like I have stage experience. It's just been a while.
Oh no, I mean that's fair. Now to my favorite questions. If you watched, and
Okay.
if anyone's watched this, oh God, have you ever had any cosplay mishaps?
um
Something where either a prop broke, something ripped, tore, snap, and you're like, oh shit.
yeah, constantly. Actually, in the last like couple of years, I haven't had nearly as many, but that's because I really put an emphasis on my craftsmanship in the last few years. But most recently, and this is why I always schedule my photo shoots in the morning, is that at Rose City, I had a bash photo shoot at 5 p.m. And the only reason it was so late was because I wanted to work with a certain person because A, they really love Trigun, and B, I just have always adored his photography, and I've worked with him before. He did some of my favorite pictures that I have, so I'm like, okay, I need to work with you. When are you available? And it's like, oh, after 5. And I'm like, okay.
Great.
So yeah, so literally I had 4 costume mishaps that day. I was in the cosplay repair room 4 times because things just kept happening. I did not expect that certain glues and leather didn't mix with body heat. So I had some of my pieces straight up melt off of me because it was up against my skin for just a little too long. So I had to go get my gun holster fixed. I had a few straps that undid themselves. I had some of like the little black button pieces on my costume. Some of those came apart. And they didn't fall off, luckily, because the silver buttons that I use are actually pins. So they were pinned into my costume. It was just the grip on like the side fell off. So they were just dangling. So I had to go get that fixed. And then at the end, like right before my shoot, I was at the Trigun meetup and we were goofing. I got on the ground to do like a funny pose and I rolled on my gun and the handle broke off.
Oh
so,
no.
so I immediately left so I could go get my gun fixed so that I could have it for my shoot. But I usually don't have that many costume mishaps anymore just because I'm a lot more careful about the way that I make stuff. But since that was a con crunched costume, there was a lot of corners I had to cut when it came to like adhering things. So I needed to go back and like actually fix all of the things that I kind of half-assed so that it would, not fall apart the second time. And it's
You
fine
live and
now.
you learn. That's the way I say it.
Yeah.
Or in this case,
Yeah,
just like,
so that was just a don't con crunch a massive costume like Vash, on top of con crunching three other costumes at the same time.
well, people are always gonna con crunch. I mean,
Oh, that was a rough month.
the amount of times I've heard at KomoriCon this year, people telling me, "Oh, I con crunched this." Like, okay, I don't know how you did
I try
that.
really hard not to. Yeah, I try really
I don't
hard
know
not
how
to
you pulled that
now.
out of your ass, but okay.
Yeah, yeah. Just that like month in particular, I had an inkling to make Bash, and I really needed to for like my mental health because I spent all summer doing nothing but commissions, and I was exhausted and burnt out. But like, I needed to do something for myself, or else I would lose it. So I made Bash. So I made Bash.
Uh,
And then at the same time, I was crunching Percy from Critical Role because we were doing a group photo
oh, I
shoot.
saw your Percy. I
Yeah,
saw
so
your
we were
Percy
doing a photo
cosplay.
shoot literally like right after Rose City. So if I didn't crunch it for Rose City, I would have had to crunch it post Rose City. And luckily, all I really made was the jacket because everything else was either my clothes or just other costume pieces. And then I
Yay for
also
upcycling!
crunched, yeah, right. I wear the same stuff like all the time. Um, but the other one was Tiki Meek from D Gray Man because I was using him for
Tiki?
a, yeah, Tykimikk. I was using
I'm just gonna
that.
write Tiki Meek
Yeah.
because you'll know when I send you the list.
Yeah, yeah. But I was literally needing him for a CMB project that I was hosting after Rose City. So I'm like, I need these costumes like within like 3 weeks of each other. So I might as well just make them all for Rose City so I can take a breather. And I did, and it was fine. But it was just a lot in 1 month. But it's fine. I like to torture myself, so here we are.
I've come to realize your seasoned cosplayers who've been doing this for like 5+ years will like, yeah, I know this is gonna hurt. I know I'm gonna cuss. I know I'm gonna cry, but you know what? At the end, it's worth it.
Yeah, no, we're self-aware, but we still do it.
Just we gotta teach
Well, and
the
when
baby
you,
cosplayers to like not do this.
yeah, right. Like, don't do that until you're confident.
Give it a few
Yeah.
years at least.
Yeah, right. Well, and I personally can make certain costume pieces really, really fast. Like, if it's a tailored jacket or something, I do so many of those that I can whip one out in like a week if I was given ample time. So,
So
like, even Percy, like as much of detail there was on that jacket, I spent maybe maybe a week's total time. There was a lot of back and forth. I have ADHD. I can't work on one thing at the same pace as everything else, so I have to have multiple projects going on at once.
cosplayers just
So
do that in
like,
general.
yeah, no, like I legitimately have to have like a billion things going on at the same time in order to keep me entertained. So it's kind of hard for me to pinpoint how long it actually takes me to do stuff. But I think Percy's jacket was probably maybe a week or less of actual working time. So because I was doing the most of that month was Vash with other things, you know, sprinkled in, but the majority of it was definitely Vash.
Makes sense. Next question is my all-time favorite, actually, out of the three I always ask. Um, do you have any cosplay WTF moments, whether it's like something made something creeped you out, something like made you go, did that just actually happen to like, alrighty then, that's new.
God, all the time. All the time. There's a reason my name is Caz Tastrophe, and that's because it's a play on my name, but also I am a disaster magnet. So anything weird that could
Oh, so you're
potentially
basically like
happen.
Vash, just bad luck seems
Yeah,
to
no,
follow
I'm
him.
like straight up Bash Kinney because it follows me. It was really funny because earlier this morning, I was trying to like prep for this interview, so I'm like, okay, what do I need to think about? And I listened to Colleen cosplay, that interview, and at the end, she mentions the car crash that she had at SoccerCon. That also happened to me at SoccerCon,
Shit.
like 2017. I had this same like I totally got in a car crash. I was in cosplay. Um, in fact, my friend was in the car with me, and I was like so furious at the person who hit me that I was about ready to get up and
Their
fight.
fault, right?
She
Not
was like,
yours.
"No, don't do that." I'm like, "Okay." But like yeah, so I've had that happen to me. My true crazy wildest story that I have ever experienced, I can't even talk about because it's not PG-13. But all I can say is don't room with people you've never met before. Um,
That's a big no-no right there.
that's a big no-no. Don't do that. I was dumb back then. It's fine. I'm not dead, so
I mean, I get it. You're wanting to cut on costs. I get it, but like, room with
yeah,
friends if you can,
yeah, don't
or
room with
stay with family.
strangers. Yep, don't room with strangers. Big mistake. And then like I guess maybe I can get into some of the reasons why I don't wear Frieza anymore because those were some like WTF moments. But at Rose City last year, I wore Frieza for a group that I used to be a part of. I'm not anymore, but they really wanted me to be there as Frieza, and um, I hadn't worn Frieza for a while, so like I was just trying to, enjoy the con. I was also coming off of a Vegas trip right before Rose City that year, so I was exhausted. And like I wasn't like cognitively fully functioning for that con either, so like some of the stuff I would have shut down a lot sooner than when it happened. I just mentally was like not capable of doing it at the time. But I had two instances that I can remember. There was like um and I'm not somebody that likes to be touched physically, and like I had way too many people come up and like put their arms around me in Frieza when they wanted pictures, and like I was too like not with it to tell them not to, because normally I'm really hard about that now. Like if somebody comes up and tries to touch me, then like I'll step away, like don't like. But I was just exhausted, and like the weirdest instance that I had at that con was there was a girl, and like she was clearly mentally handicapped, so I'm like I can't fully blame her. She was with a parent that was not paying attention like he should have, and this was the thing that like really pissed me off. But we still had to mask at con, so I had my Frieza makeup and a mask over it, and this girl approaches me and was like, "Wow, your makeup's really crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, it is pretty crazy." And she straight up, like, not missing a beat, goes to pull my mask off so that she can see the rest of my makeup. And her dad's sitting there on his phone, and like I swatted her hand away, and then she got upset because I did that, because she didn't understand, like there was clearly a barrier there, and I couldn't figure out how to explain to her that she can't do that other than to just tell her to stop. And he was like sitting there like, "Don't do that, back to the phone." And I'm like, "Okay." So I
Great
just walked
parenting,
away.
Dad.
Yeah, yeah, I'm like grade A parenting, love it. So I just had to walk away. I'm like, "We're leaving. I'm gonna remove myself from the situation." And I heard her like throw a tantrum, like she was really upset that I walked away. And again, like I'm not. It's the dad's fault. I'm not blaming the kid, because he should have been there. But like I just having too many of those like weird experiences where I'm like people feel the need to, and especially with touching, I'm like if people want to touch me in cosplay, like if whatever cosplay attracts that, I no more. Like we're done.
No, no, I like
And Frieza really did in this last like couple of years for some reason. So like
conflict does not equal consent.
no, no, it does not. And yeah, and like another thing that happened in that costume that day was one of my armor pieces was starting to like separate. And I knew that I wasn't gonna wear him again, like really ever, so I did not care. And like it was on my leg, it was one of my leg armor pieces, and somebody, while I was standing still, bent down to try to like put it back together, which first of all, I'm like, it wasn't gonna go back together because you needed like glue or something. So I felt something tugging at my leg, and I almost kicked them because I thought that like something weird was brushing up against me, and I'm like, let me just get it out of here. And yeah, so then I just see this person on the ground like trying to mess with my leg armor. I'm like, please stop.
Do you want to get kicked by Frieza? Because that's how you get
I'm
kicked
like,
by
yeah,
Frieza.
like literally like the space emperor dictator. Like, don't mess with me.
No
So
touchy.
that was kind of
No
like
touchy.
the icing on the cake of I don't
Uh,
want to wear Frieza anymore because there was just too many weird experiences.
It's like it's not that hard.
So yeah, cosplay is not consent, and if people are touching you and you don't like it, please yell at them. But I was just really,
Or
really
just
tired
or
that
just
weekend,
or just bark at
so I
them.
wasn't on
That'll
my
make it go
day.
away real
Yeah,
fast.
yeah. Like
Oh,
I can't speak from experience. Making random rabid noises will scare people.
oh, jeez. Now what's been your favorite convention moment? Like to this day, you'll always, whether it's recent or in the past, it's something you'll always remember because it brought you pure joy.
Um, that's hard. I have a lot of them, which is a good thing. Like as many weird experiences as I have, I probably have more good ones. Um, but like, ooh, God, I even had one in mind earlier, and it's not coming to me. um, oh, okay. I want to say it was definitely, and this is why I need to wear this costume again. But it was when I was in Bartolomeo at SoccerCon 2 years ago, and I was just like, I was feeling it. I was in my element in this costume. I decided that I wanted to take selfies with every Luffy cosplayer that I saw. So I would like straight up yell at them from across the convention space. And like Bartolomeo doesn't like come into play until like in the 700s like level of
Jeez,
One Piece
years
episodes. So I'm
later.
like, yeah, so I'm like, not everybody's even gonna know who he is, but everyone who did was like so excited to see Barto. And like I was just having the time of my life. And like we had this big One Piece meetup. And it was just really cool to like be a part of the One Piece scene because this was the first con that I went to that I was like officially a One Piece fan, and I was like cosplaying from One Piece, so I got to like have all of these interactions with people. I met a ton of people that are still like close friends to this day because of that costume, because I was being a menace. So like I can attribute a lot of that to that costume. Oh, I remember the other one. So this was at Wizard World before
Oh, before it got
they
changed
turned
to Fan
into Fan
Expo.
Expo.
God, I haven't
Yeah,
heard that name in years.
so and this was still I know. So this was still when I was cosplaying from Dragon Ball. I was cosplaying Zamasu um
Who?
from Super. So he's one of the like villains from the Super series
His name is
in
Zama
the
what?
Goku Black arc.
Zamasu?
Zamasu.
Okay. Continue.
Yeah.
I'm looking him up.
So I was in that costume. Okay. Yeah, I'm throwing a lot of curveballs in the costume department here because I always gravitate towards fairly strange characters.
Oh, he's one of the
Um,
guys.
but I was at this con. Yeah,
Yeah, him, right? This
yeah.
version?
And it was specifically the version of him where he's like fused with another character, so he did look a little different, but it's the same character. Yeah, it was that one. Um, so I was in that cosplay, and I didn't buy tickets to Wizard World. I literally just showed up, and like I found a friend of mine, and her husband and kid wanted to go home. So I told her um if I drove her home, could I have her husband's badge? And they were like, yeah. So I took his badge in exchange for driving her home so I could stay. So I didn't even buy
Or
tickets to this.
you got it for
And
free. Nice.
yeah. So I was not even supposed to be in the dealer's hall, which is even funnier. But we went in to go like check out all the stuff, and all of a sudden this guy walks up to me, and he had like a bunch of people following him, and I thought that was weird. And he also wasn't in cosplay, which also was kind of weird. And I don't wear my glasses to cons, so that's important because I can't really like determine faces very well unless you're like right up next to me. And so he asked for a picture, and he handed his phone to my friend, and she took it. And then as like mid photo, he was like, by the way, I'm James Marsters and I voice your character. And her and I just like slack jawed, like, what? And I, to this day, cannot prove that this happened because he took the picture on his phone,
Ah,
and neither of us thought to be like, oh my god, can I have a picture too? Because we were
I
both in shock. And then he just walked.
I honestly believe you because voice actors are
It's
known
so
to do
weird.
voice actors are known
Yeah,
to do that shockingly.
they do. So, and he was there not for Dragon Ball stuff, but they had a bunch of Buffy actors at that con, at that particular Wizard World.
Hey,
So we were just
what
like,
was the actor's name?
James Marsters or Marster.
I
Like
oh wait a minute.
straight up, I even started following him on
No,
Twitter to see if he posted.
I'm gonna have to bleep this out. No way. You had Spike, who also played as Piccolo in the live-action Dragon Ball movie,
Yeah,
who also voices. What the? Okay, I'm bleeping those two out, but that is
yeah.
cool. Okay, bleeping that one out.
It was so funny. It
I'm
was
sorry. I'm
so
just like
funny.
that is awesome.
Yeah, so that was probably the weirdest and coolest thing that I've ever had happen.
Oh yeah. I mean, I honestly believe it because voice actors are known to do that. If they see someone cosplaying their favorite character, they will be like, "Yes, I want to
Yeah,
follow
well,
you."
and I had an experience like that even with Ian Sinclair back at WasabiCon because he came out to Portland. I did have to stand in his autograph line, so it wasn't like I spotted you from across the room and needed to say something unexpectedly, but like he was really happy because I cosplayed Sukasa, which he plays in the dub from Doctor Stone. So like there's a picture of me and him on my Instagram now, which was awesome, and he was like so enamored by like the fur cape that I made.
I'll
He
post a
asked me to pet
picture.
it. Yeah, like he's a hoot. I've met him a few times actually, and he's one of like my favorite voice
Oh,
actors to have had an
nice,
experience with because he's so fun.
nice.
But yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, definitely more good experiences than bad,
oh,
but like
it sounds like it.
yeah.
So two more questions. It's a question I've been recently asking, thanks to someone bringing it up in a previous podcast a while back. What kind of impact has cosplay had on your life?
It's taken over my life. um to be quite honest. Cosplay actually helped me pick my career path. So I wouldn't be doing what I do without cosplay. Kind of wild, but like a lot of people just see it as a hobby. I'm like, I literally do it for money now, and like, you know,
It's
cosplaying
basically a
has given me a
career
lot
at
of
this
skills that
point.
I wouldn't have had otherwise. Yeah, like it, I mean, I don't like it's not obviously my full-time career, but I don't think I would be doing like tailoring in general if I didn't cosplay. I wouldn't have gone to, you know, get my bachelor's degree if I didn't know about cosplay. Because like one of the things that like kind of catapulted me into this career path was in college I took a costuming class and we had to make a costume for the costuming class. I made Inuyasha. There are no photo evidence of this. Well, actually, there's one, but not on my Instagram. But I made that and I just wore it to school one day, and it was weird. That's like one of the ways I met my partner. So, because yeah, he's like, who's the weirdo that wanted to wear an Inuyasha costume to school?
I see.
So, like, honestly, cosplay's given me a lot of things. I would not be anywhere
I mean,
close to where I'm at right
you
now
met
without
your
it.
husband
Yeah,
because
no,
of
no, no. Like,
cosplay.
it pretty much introduced me to my partner. It introduced me to my career. It made me some money this last year. So, yeah, it's pretty wild.
Nice. So last but not least, just advice in general you want to throw out there for those who are listening and are watching this when I decide to put this on Spotify one of these days.
So I did think about this quite a bit, and my biggest like piece of advice that nobody talks about is that perfectionism is stupid. And if you want to get into cosplay and if you want to make stuff, don't feel the need to be perfect because that's going to end up hurting you a lot more than it's going to help you in the long run. And I hear people complain about this so many times where it's like, oh, I didn't make this because it needed to be perfect and it wasn't coming out perfect. Like realize that cosplayers, especially as craftspeople, we cover a lot of ground on our own without massive workshops, without a lot of know-how, with literally like YouTube and a sewing machine. So don't beat yourself up if you do something and it's not perfect. Most of the stuff that I make is nowhere close to being perfect, but like you just get better over time and like compare yourself to your past self and don't compare yourself to people that do things or like other cosplayers in general, especially if they do really cool builds. Like you don't know what their path was like. You don't know how much time and energy they've put into anything. Some people are naturally like good at stuff. I also hate the word talented. Like, don't think that, oh, if I'm not talented in this aspect, you can never be good at it. Like, you can be good at pretty much anything. You just have to put the time and the effort in. And I think that a lot of people don't see that because social media likes to blow up and make everything like, like fast fashion. Like, if you're not whipping out a new costume every week, then you're not good enough. And it's like, no,
God,
that's
I've heard that.
insane. Yeah, so like, don't let that bog you down. Don't feel like you can't ever like achieve certain levels. Like, you can, you just need to like actually invest time and effort.
Oh,
Um,
I wholeheartedly agree on
mhm,
that.
yeah.
Hmm.
So there's my hot take.
And I will and
Perfectionism is dumb.
oh no,
Talent's not a thing. Like,
I agree. Sometimes, as I always say, there's nothing wrong with being screen accurate, but sometimes comfortability is better than accuracy.
yeah, like what I do, I change a lot of designs, mostly because of skill level, because I want to cosplay a lot of characters. But some things are just too boring for me, so I make them more complicated than they need to be, so I'm entertained. But if you need to do the opposite of that, that's fine. Or like if a character is showing too much skin and you don't want to do that, then change it. Like, who cares? Or vice versa, if they're not showing enough skin, just change it. Like, who cares? People aren't like as weird about being screen accurate anymore, and unless you're competing in a costume contest, you don't need to like strive for that. That's kind of the only exception, is that if you do compete, you do have to make things accurate to whatever reference you're using. But they're actually a lot more lenient about original designs. So, in fact, the winner of Rose City Comic Con, she did a it was a Tinkerbell cosplayer, and she did it based off of a artist
I
rendition,
saw
and
that, and she did really
yeah,
well.
and she won, and it was awesome. So yeah,
Nice. Well, I think that should about do it. Again, Kaz, thank you for coming on for
yeah.
Cosplay
Thanks for
Con
having
Talk.
me.
And also thank you for coming on for the first time, by the way. I forgot to mention that this is Kaz's
Yep.
first time on
Hello.
Cosplay Con Talk. Just
I know I'm hard
definitely.
to pin down, but it's fine.
Oh no, all good. Also real quick, where can people find you on social media if they want to stay up to date with your cosplays or in convention stuff?
Yeah, I'm the most active on Instagram. If I have a platform at all, then I'll be Caz Tastrophe Cos at the end with periods in between. Um, but yeah, I'm the most active on Instagram. I do have a TikTok that hasn't been active since February, but like, you can find me there too, and I have Twitter and like all that other stuff. Um, yeah, that's about it.
Nice. And I think that should do it. As always, I am Wayne the Unknown. Until next time, thank you for listening, and as always, thank you for watching.